For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. A deadly weekend in Gaza. Israeli strikes hit the southern city of Rafah, including a tent encampment where Palestinians were seeking refuge. At least 8 people were killed. In northern Gaza, an infant died of starvation. Media reports in the Middle East from Al Jazeera and Quds News Network report the infant was 2 to 3 months old, and lack of food for the mother left her without enough milk to sustain the newborn baby. The United Nations has repeatedly accused Israel of hampering aid deliveries to the Gaza Strip and blocking them to the north. Israel denies that, but a new report from Human Rights Watch backs the accusation up, finding Israel's not complying with an order issued by The Hague to scale back its war in Gaza to prevent a genocide. The report says Israeli authorities are deliberately blocking the delivery of water, food, and fuel, depriving Palestinians of the necessities for survival. The death toll is nearing 30,000 in Gaza and is likely an undercount as bodies are buried under rubble. Today is a global action in solidarity with Gaza journalists. The International Federation of Journalists reports at least 100 journalists have been killed in Gaza since the Hamas attacks on southern Israel October 7th. A global day of action for a ceasefire in Gaza is planned for Saturday, March 2nd. Today is the last day of arguments over a separate case asking the International Court of Justice for an advisory opinion on Israel's occupation of Palestinian lands seen as a future Palestinian state, East Jerusalem, West Bank, and now Gaza. More than 50 nations made arguments. The vast majority spoke in opposition to Israel's occupation. Palestine's Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh says his government is resigning. The president, Mahmoud Abbas, will decide whether he accepts that resignation. Their forces were driven from Gaza by Hamas in 2007. This comes as Israel's outlined its plan for Gaza's future, including annexation of some parts of Gaza, then installing control from locals not linked to Hamas. In Tel Aviv, thousands of Israelis took to the streets demanding the release of hostages held by Hamas and blaming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for more than 100 hostages still kept in Hamas captivity. Protesters also called on Netanyahu's far-right government to resign. 21 people were arrested. An active duty member of the U.S. Air Force is dead after he set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. to protest the war in Gaza. He yelled while burning, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide." The Metropolitan Police Department say 25-year-old Aaron Bushnell of San Antonio, Texas, died from his self-immolation. In the U.S., vigils were held across the country this weekend for Nex Benedict, the two-spirit non-binary teenager who died a day after they were attacked by classmates in Owasso, Oklahoma earlier this month. LGBTQ advocates say the state's anti-trans laws and rhetoric created an atmosphere of hate that led to Benedict's death.
We told them that if they continue this rhetoric of hate, this rhetoric of division, and this rhetoric of targeting vulnerable populations, that it would result in body bags, and I am devastated to tell you that we were right.
Oklahoma has banned gender-affirming care, trans people from using the bathroom of their choice, and passed penalties against school teachers asking students what their pronouns are. Friday, an Oklahoma Senator, Republican Tom Wood, called Benedict filth at a Chamber of Commerce legislative forum.
We're a Republican state, supermajority in the House and Senate. I represent a constituency that doesn't want that filth in Oklahoma. We are a religious state.
Police say an early autopsy shows Benedict did not die as a result of trauma. People are calling for an independent investigation. Russia's war in Ukraine is now in its 3rd year. A delegation of U.S. senators led by leader Chuck Schumer met with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky over the weekend to mark the 2-year anniversary of Russia's invasion and pledged U.S. support despite funding being stalled by House Republicans. A Ukrainian army spokesman said Kiev's troops have withdrawn from a village in the east of the country as Russian forces make advances on the battlefield in a Donetsk suburb. Meanwhile, peace activists rallied at the Travis Air Force Base in California this weekend to mark the 2-year anniversary of the war, calling for an end to both Russia's siege and U.S. military support for Ukraine. Donald Trump won South Carolina's Republican primary, beating rival former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley in her home state and further cementing his power in the party Saturday. Trump has now swept every contest for Republican delegates so far, adding to wins in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and U.S. Virgin Islands. Nikki Haley's not giving up, though she lost her major backing from the wealthy Koch brothers group Americans for Prosperity. The focus is now on Michigan. The primaries Tuesday, then Super Tuesday, March 5th. In Michigan, there's a movement brewing to vote uncommitted on the Democratic primary in opposition to President Joe Biden's support for Israel's war in Gaza. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.